Hello friends again. I noticed in the first video that there weren't many views. I hope this part will get a lot of views. If there are any criticisms, we will accept them in order to improve our channel, thank you. Now let's continue the story. Echoes Beyond Earth. Arc 2. The Unseen Presence. Several weeks had passed since the strange incidents began. Life inside the apartment appeared perfectly normal. Kale immersed himself in Project Horizon, often returning home long after sunset. Mora continued reading ancient paper books, insisting they preserved memories that digital archives could never replace. Vera remained as quiet as ever. Only Sierra noticed the smallest changes. The apartment no longer felt unfamiliar. It felt as though it had quietly accepted someone else. One afternoon, Sierra decided to reorganize the storage room. Most of the boxes had remained unopened since the family moved into the apartment. Old photographs, outdated electronic devices, children's toys from another generation. Everything was covered by a thin layer of dust. Near the back wall, she discovered a small metallic door, hidden behind stacked containers. Kale had never mentioned that the apartment even had one. One afternoon, Sierra decided to reorganize the storage room. Most of the boxes had remained unopened since the family moved into the apartment. Old photographs, outdated electronic devices, children's toys from another generation. Everything was covered by a thin layer of dust. Near the back wall, she discovered a small metallic door hidden behind stacked containers. Kale had never mentioned that the apartment even had one. The panel beside the hidden door showed no symbols, no lock, no visible power source. Sierra gently brushed away years of dust with her hand. The surface felt unexpectedly warm. She searched the apartment's construction records. Nothing. According to every official blueprint, that section of the wall was supposed to be solid concrete. The hidden compartment simply didn't exist. When Kale returned that evening, Sierra asked about the concealed door. He looked genuinely confused. What door? She led him into the storage room. He examined the wall carefully, ran his fingers across every corner. There isn't anything here. Sierra stood frozen. The metallic outline remained perfectly visible before her eyes. Yet Kale saw nothing except an ordinary wall. Neither of them understood what that meant. That night, sleep came slowly. Rain whispered against the panoramic windows, while distant aircraft crossed the skies above Neo Casablanca. Sierra couldn't stop thinking about the hidden door. Was she imagining it? Or was the apartment revealing something meant for her alone? Outside, the city never slept. Inside, the silence had begun to feel strangely familiar. What do you mean you can't see it? Sierra's voice carried more confusion than fear. Kale stared at the empty wall for several seconds before looking back at her. I've lived here for 6 years, he replied calmly. There has never been a door. Neither of them raised their voices. Neither accused the other of lying. Yet a quiet distance settled between them. For the first time, they were standing in the same room while experiencing two completely different realities. The apartment's archive contained every renovation, repair, and structural update since the building was completed. Sierra examined each record with obsessive patience. Floor plans, maintenance logs, construction permits. Every document matched the others perfectly. There was no missing corridor, no hidden chamber, no unexplained modification. The more complete the records appeared, the less convinced she became that they were telling the whole truth. Curiosity slowly replaced fear. Instead of avoiding the storage room, Sira began visiting it every day. She never touched the hidden door again. She only observed it. Sometimes the metallic frame appeared brighter. Sometimes it almost faded into the wall. Nothing about it remained completely consistent. It wasn't changing quickly enough to notice. Only slowly enough to make memory seem unreliable. Project Horizon demanded more of Kale's time with each passing week. Several research teams had reported unusual fluctuations beyond Earth's orbital defense grid. No emergency had been declared. No public statement had been released. Even so, the engineers worked longer shifts than ever before. Kale accepted the extra hours without complaint. He believed the greatest dangers were always solved long before ordinary people ever learned they existed. Silence had become part of the apartment. Not the comforting silence of a peaceful home, but the kind that made every small sound impossible to ignore. Sira found herself recognizing each familiar noise: the ventilation system, the service drones, the distant traffic outside. Then, one afternoon, another sound joined them, a slow metallic tap, soft enough to be dismissed, regular enough to be remembered. No one else reacted. Kale never questioned the reliability of technology. Every security system inside Neo Casablanca operated through a unified quantum network, monitored every second of the day. Out of curiosity rather than concern, he requested the apartment's activity log. The report listed every unlocked door, every moving drone, every energy fluctuation. Nothing appeared unusual. The apartment had behaved exactly as expected, at least, according to the system. The hidden outline refused to leave Sira's thoughts. Each visit to the storage room revealed the same impossible sight. She measured the wall, photographed it, compared every image. The metallic frame remained in exactly the same position. Yet every photograph showed nothing except bare concrete. Only her own eyes insisted that something was waiting beneath the surface. Vera noticed Sira carrying another scanner into the storage room. "You won't find answers by forcing them," she said quietly. Sira paused. "Then how?" Vera looked toward the hallway before replying. "Some doors aren't built to be opened. They're built to choose who can see them." The words sounded less like advice, and more like a memory. Across the city, Project Horizon entered a critical phase. Several research stations had detected brief distortions beyond Earth's orbital shield. The phenomenon lasted only fractions of a second before disappearing. Scientists blamed unstable cosmic radiation. The official explanation satisfied everyone. Everyone except Kale. The recorded patterns reminded him of something, though he couldn't remember what. Mora closed the final page of her book and placed it gently on the table. "It has happened again," she murmured. Sira looked at her. "What has?" "The same dream." Before Sira could ask another question, Mora stood up and walked toward the window. "I've been dreaming of this apartment for years." She smiled sadly. "The strange part is, I've never lived here before." The maintenance drones arrived exactly on schedule. 3 machines inspected every wall, every circuit, and every ventilation shaft inside the apartment. Their report was flawless. No hidden rooms, no structural damage, no abnormal energy readings. When the drones departed, Sira compared every photograph she had taken during the past week. The storage room looked identical in each image. The shelves hadn't moved. The lighting remained unchanged. Only one detail refused to stay the same. A faint shadow appeared near the hidden wall. It never had a clear shape. It never occupied the exact same place. Yet it always seemed, just a little closer than before. Kale's research team gathered around a holographic projection suspended above the laboratory floor. The orbital sensors had captured another anomaly. For less than half a second, space itself appeared to bend. No explosion, no radiation spike. Only a distortion that ignored every known physical law. The data was archived under restricted access. No explanation followed. Only more questions. Maura rarely spoke about her childhood. Whenever the subject arose, she quietly changed the conversation. That afternoon was different. She opened an old wooden box and removed a faded photograph. The faces had almost disappeared with time. Only one building remained perfectly visible. Sierra stared at it in silence. It looked remarkably similar to the apartment where they now lived. Curiosity finally overcame hesitation. Sierra placed her hand against the hidden outline once again. The surface responded with a gentle vibration. Not enough to move, only enough to be felt. She stepped back immediately. Nothing happened afterward. The wall stood perfectly still. Had anyone else been watching? They would have sworn she had touched nothing at all. Outside, Neo Casablanca continued its endless rhythm. Markets welcomed travelers from distant star systems. Children laughed beside floating gardens. Autonomous transports crossed the skyline without pause. The city carried on as though nothing had changed. Inside one quiet apartment, a single unanswered question continued to grow. Some mysteries don't become dangerous because they exist. They become dangerous because someone refuses to stop searching. The apartment had begun to influence Sierra's routine without her noticing. She no longer chose where to spend her time. Her feet carried her naturally toward the storage room several times each day. Sometimes she stood there for minutes. Sometimes much longer. She never expected anything to happen. Yet every visit ended with the same feeling, as though the hidden wall had been quietly observing her in return. Project Horizon received a transmission from one of the automated probes beyond lunar orbit. The signal wasn't damaged. It wasn't interrupted. It simply contained information that no computer could translate. Every decoding system produced different results. Languages changed. Symbols shifted. Even identical copies refused to remain identical for long. Kale watched the reports in silence. He had never seen data behave like that before. Vera carefully dusted an old cabinet standing near the living room. Behind several forgotten objects rested a small metallic key. Its design looked ancient compared to modern technology. Sarah picked it up. "What does it open?" Vera studied the key for a long moment before answering. "I don't remember." The reply sounded sincere. Yet her eyes suggested she remembered far more than she wished to admit. For the first time in weeks, Kale noticed Zero becoming distant. She listened during conversations, but her thoughts wandered elsewhere. He blamed stress, long hours alone, perhaps even boredom. He suggested taking a short trip outside the city after his current assignment ended. Sierra agreed with a smile. It wasn't a dishonest smile. Only one that carried questions she no longer knew how to explain. The hidden outline looked different again. Not larger. Not brighter. Simply clearer. Its edges no longer blended with the concrete. They appeared carved into the wall itself. Sierra reached toward it instinctively, then stopped before making contact. Some instincts encourage discovery. Others exist only to warn us. She still hadn't decided which one she was following. The hidden outline looked different again. Not larger. Not brighter. Simply clearer. Its edges no longer blended with the concrete. They appeared carved into the wall itself. Sierra reached toward it instinctively, then stopped before making contact. Some instincts encourage discovery. Others exist only to warn us. She still hadn't decided which one she was following. The metallic key remained on Sierra's desk for several days. She resisted the urge to carry it into the storage room. It felt irrational. A forgotten key couldn't possibly belong to a door that officially didn't exist. Still, every time she passed by, the polished metal reflected a faint silver glow. Not from the lights above, but from somewhere she couldn't identify. She eventually placed it inside a drawer. The glow disappeared. Her unease did not. Project Horizon expanded its investigation beyond Earth's orbit. The latest distortion had left behind an unusual residue. Not matter, not energy. Something that behaved differently each time it was measured. The research teams argued for hours without reaching a conclusion. Cale listened more than he spoke. One phrase echoed through every discussion. It shouldn't exist. Yet the evidence continued to accumulate. Sierra finally returned to the hidden wall. She carried no scanner, no camera, no measuring tools. Only the small metallic key resting in her pocket. She never intended to use it. Standing before the outline was enough. For a brief moment, the air grew strangely still. The key became warm in her hand. Then everything returned to normal. The wall remained closed, as if it had merely acknowledged her presence. Mora watched the exchange without interrupting. Only after Sarah left the room did she reach toward the same wall. Her fingertips rested against the concrete for several seconds. A quiet smile crossed her face. "So, you finally woke up." No answer came. She hadn't expected one. Some conversations were never meant to be heard with ordinary ears. She walked away as calmly as she had arrived. A maintenance notification appeared across every apartment display. The building would undergo a complete structural inspection. If a hidden chamber truly existed, the scanners would reveal it. She waited through the entire inspection. Hours later, the final report declared the building perfectly ordinary. She read the conclusion twice, then closed the screen without saying a word. The inspection report should have ended the discussion. Instead, it made Cale more curious than ever. He requested the original architectural archive rather than the public version. The building had been constructed almost 80 years earlier. Every document appeared complete. Every approval carried an official seal. Yet one section of the blueprint had been replaced. Not erased. Replaced so perfectly that only a comparison with the earliest backup revealed the alteration. Sarah found herself standing before the hidden wall again. She wasn't searching for answers anymore. She simply wanted to understand why she kept returning. The metallic outline no longer looked unfamiliar. It felt expected, almost welcoming. She slowly lifted the old key before it reached the surface. A soft vibration spread through the floor beneath her feet. The shelves trembled for less than a second. Then everything became still again. Far above Earth, Project Horizon recorded the strongest spatial fluctuation since the program had begun. Every sensor captured the same impossible reading. The disturbance wasn't expanding, it was synchronizing. One researcher described it as two distant locations attempting to overlap. Most dismissed the comparison. Cale didn't, for reasons he couldn't explain. The word overlap refused to leave his mind. Mora carefully unfolded the faded photograph once more. This time, she turned it over. A handwritten sentence covered the back. The first door must remain closed until it remembers its keeper. The ink had almost disappeared with age. There was no signature, no date. Sarah read the words several times. They sounded less like a warning, and more like instructions left for someone who had not yet arrived. The apartment changed in ways no instrument could measure. Conversations became quieter. Footsteps echoed differently through the hallway. Even the air carried a faint metallic scent after sunset. No visitor noticed. No system detected a fault. Only those who lived there sensed the difference. It was as though the apartment had stopped hiding its presence. Not from the world. Only from its own residents. Cale spent the entire evening comparing archived blueprints with the oldest construction files he could access. Most differences were insignificant. Room dimensions, ventilation routes, utility shafts. Then he stopped. The storage room had once been larger, not by much, barely 2 meters. According to the oldest blueprint, another chamber had existed behind its northern wall. Every modern record claimed that chamber had never been built. Someone hadn't deleted it from history. Someone had rewritten history itself. Sarah placed the metallic key against the hidden outline. This time, she didn't hesitate. A quiet click echoed through the wall. Not loud, not mechanical. Almost alive. The outline dissolved into countless strands of pale light, before revealing a narrow passage beyond the concrete. There were no machines. No furniture. Only a corridor stretching into darkness, illuminated by symbols that pulsed like a heartbeat. Without taking a single step, Sarah understood one terrifying truth. The apartment had never been hiding a room. It had been hiding away. This concludes Arc 2, with its first real revelation. Where does this passage lead? Who built it? Why can only Sarah see it? And what does Project Horizon have to do with the space distortions? You'll discover all of this, my friends, in the next Arc 3.